Good evening. You're watching the news today at 9. I'm Akshita Nandagopala, and a big talking point tonight, 2025, starting off on an alarming note in America, as 2 incidents of suspected terror attacks and 3 incidents overall of New Year attacks have been reported across America. We'll be joined by experts to discuss whether these attacks have been timed to Trump's takeover. And our top story tonight, a spurt of attacks rocking the United States of America on New Year's Day. In New Orleans, an ISIS link has emerged to the truck driver who plowed through a crowd, killing 15 and injuring over 30. And then hours later in Las Vegas, a Tesla Cybertruck exploded right outside the Trump Towers. Its founder, Elon Musk, is labeling it an act of terror. So are these series of attacks linked? Is there a bigger message ahead of Trump's return to the White House helm? The details first in this report.
A rocky start to the year for the United States of America. New Orleans. On New Year's Day, a white truck plowed through a busy street of New Orleans, killing 15 and leaving dozens injured.
The killer was an American citizen, born in Texas. Mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS. The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack.
We have been aware of the Baller situation for a long time, and we did indeed harden those target areas where the Ballers are. We had patrol cars out there as a hard target, as well as with barriers. There is no way that ambulance could get in or out, people couldn't get in and out, so we knew that these were malfunction.
A suspected link between the driver, a US Army veteran, and the ISIS terror group emerged after arms and an ISIS flag was recovered.
The FBI, we are working with our partners to investigate this as an act of terrorism. We're aggressively running down all of the leads to identify the possible subject's associates. We're working to ensure that there is no further threat. We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible. We're aggressively running down every lead, including those of his known associates.
Las Vegas. Miles away, just hours apart in Las Vegas, a Tesla Cybertruck went up in flames, leaving 1 dead and 7 injured. But what was assumed to be a mere explosion has been labelled an act of terror by Tesla chief Elon Musk. The billionaire claims a link between the attack in New Orleans and Las Vegas.
We're tracking the explosion of a Cybertruck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Law enforcement and the intelligence community are investigating this as well, including whether there's any possible connection with the attack in New Orleans. Thus far, there's nothing to report on that score at this time.
Queens, New York. The third attack unraveled in the East Coast just before the clock struck midnight. A mass firing in Queens nightclub killed 11 revelers. This spurt of attacks in a span of 24 hours has put America on the edge. Bureau Report, India Today.
All right, so let's dive right into it. First, starting off with our big questions that we will be putting forth over our discussion. Are these New Year attacks acts of terror? Authorities right now haven't confirmed the same. They are looking into that aspect. Are the New Orleans and Las Vegas attacks miles apart, miles away, hours apart? Are they linked? Are the attacks an attempt to send a message to Donald Trump and to Elon Musk, as Musk has indicated? Are the attacks also timed to Trump's inauguration, which is less than 20 days from now? Let's open this up. Joining us on the news today tonight is Andrew Latham, Professor of International Relations, joining us from St. Paul in the United States. We also have Sajid Tarar, Republican leader, who is joining us from Maryland in America. Victor Asal, Professor, University of Albany, is also with us. We have Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow of the Observer Research Foundation, Tara Karta, Terrorism and Security Expert. Thank you all very much for joining us tonight. I'd like to begin first with Professor Latham. What we've seen is a very, very unfortunate start, Professor, to 2025 in America. What are your thoughts about what's really happened about these three attacks? Would you deem them as acts of terror, particularly the two, one that's been reported in New Orleans and the other in Vegas?
Well, clearly they're acts of terror in that they're motivated by politics and there was mass murders committed. Whether there was a conspiracy, I'm not convinced of that. I think this is a manifestation of a worldview that has taken hold in certain parts of the United States, and it's manifesting itself as these mass murders. So no conspiracy. I don't buy that. Mm-hmm. But these things are happening for a reason. And it has to be said too, just quickly, that the people, as far as we know, that were perpetrating these crimes were very troubled individuals. And so the way in which they expressed their rage and anger for their failing lives was given a political frame, and that enabled them to act in a very particular way. And it was ever thus. That's always been the case with terrorists. The actual perpetrators of terrorism are often very troubled individuals, not simply political activists acting on their political convictions.
Sajid, do you think so too? Do you agree with Professor Latham that they could be, in fact, driven by some sort of political motive? Mr. Tarar, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. You know, here, I'm not only Republican, but I'm a Muslim at the same time in the US, and I wanted to tell you what is going on. Unfortunately, I have to blame the last administration, Biden, Kamala Harris administration, when in New York and continuously every part of the country where the kids are burning American flags and they are asking for international intifada. So why they were not giving an answer, why there was no action taken there. So right now, matter of fact, this has increased the mandate of Donald Trump. And this is sending the signal how fragile the word peace is. So I definitely link, because not only a link, the gentleman who did it in New Orleans, there was an ISIS flag hanging on his pickup truck at the same time. But I condemn, and this is not the solution. This is not the way moving forward. But again, the hatred and against America, against their own country, this was promoted during last 4 years, which is not fair with the America. But Donald Trump, his uphill battle, I'm not sure how he would be able to do it within 2 years or within 4 years, because defunding police, defunding this, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, January 6th. I mean, all of this, that the society, America is, and plus at the same time, 11 million illegals, more than 35,000 Chinese, they have come into the US. So America, it's a national security matter.
No, but do you believe it's a conspiracy? Do you believe it's timed to the Trump inauguration, that we're less than 20 days from it?
First of all, New Orleans incident has been declared as a terrorist. In Las Vegas, event has not been marked yet. They are still investigation, and New York is still under investigation. But definitely, we can say that this is a signal towards Donald Trump, because that's one of the biggest events. The world is looking forward, and Donald Trump has, he has a very unique personality. Matter of fact, a lot of people they are angry in the U.S. right now.
Sushant Sareen, I'd like to also bring you in on this broadcast. Look, Professor Latham says there's no conspiracy involved, but looking at the details that have emerged of the New Orleans attacker, the suspect there and the suspect in Las Vegas, there are eerie similarities. Do you think they're linked? Because we're talking about an army veteran being involved in the incident in New Orleans. Details trickling in right now of the suspect also in Las Vegas, who also seems to be an army veteran.
Look, if there is a conspiracy in which these two gentlemen and whatever networks they're belonging to were actually conspiring to launch these attacks, I think we'll find that out. As of now, there is no clear evidence. There are, of course, coincidences that it's the same company from where the vehicles have been hired and stuff like that. But yes, individually, each one is a conspiracy in a manner of speaking. If you look at the New Orleans attack, and look, incidentally, all acts of terrorism are political, they are ideological, and in some cases they are religious. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. There is no act of terrorism which is not a political act. Uh, but as far as the New Orleans attack is concerned, it seems that the motivation of that is, at least on the face of it, very different from the one which took place in Las Vegas. Now, given the kind of political polarization which is there in the US, the symbolism of an attack outside the Trump Tower in a vehicle which is manufactured by Elon Musk, one of the biggest backers of the incoming president. It seems like this is a politically motivated attack, also because they seem to have found some ordnance and some explosives which are different from what was initially reported, which is that these were firecrackers and stuff like that. The only thing which I'm interested in knowing is that since the driver died, was this a kind of a suicide attack? Then probably one of the first ones to have taken place in the United States. Or was this a guy who wanted to get out and then probably explode that Cybertruck from a distance? That is one. The other one, of course, is an ISIS-inspired one.
Yeah.
But I don't think, perhaps, who knows, politics in America is quite crazy these days. So maybe the ISIS guys and the guys who hate Donald Trump are probably on the same side. Who can tell anymore? Considering that in Ivy League universities, people support groups like Hamas and other terror groups. So you can't say whether that is indeed the case. But look, in one case it's an ISIS, in the other case it's probably some kind of a left-wing nut group which has decided to make some kind of a symbolic attack to make a point. But like Elon Musk says, the Cybertruck is built like a tank, and thankfully it didn't do any damage, except for the driver himself, who probably died in the attack.
Professor Asal, do you think so too? Do you think that particularly the Las Vegas incident was some sort of a warning being issued to Elon Musk and Donald Trump, or at least their style of politics?
So I want to take a step back, if that would be okay with you. Yeah. And I want to note that extremism in America over the last several years has gotten much worse. And I'm going to disagree with my colleagues here that the extremism that we're seeing here is not just coming from one side. So there's been a growth in Islamist extremism, but there's also been a growth in right-wing extremism. So if you remember the January 6th attacks in 2021, you know what I'm talking about, yes?
Of course.
And so I think, and I'm somebody who studies extremist non-state actor violence, and I've studied it cross-nationally, but I've also studied it within the context of the United States. And there has been a growth of extremist organizations in this country, and they're coming from different ideologies. A lot of them are from the right, and some of them are Islamist, some are left, but it's not just from one direction.
In that case, Professor Asal, since you're saying it's coming from every direction, obviously that makes it a lot more challenging to also tackle. But do you believe that under a certain regime, there's one type of extremism that's perhaps thrived more than the other?
So I think that depending upon the direction of the government, it is very likely that the people who see the government as the bad guys are likely to go more extremist than the other side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I will note that in the United States, that would be related to left and right, but Islamist extremism, like this gentleman was claiming in his statement, in his video, in some of the videos that they found, I think that's a completely different direction. I don't think that is related to Democrat or Republican. I think that's related to hating America in general. Okay. And this is somebody who converted to Islam, and unfortunately, not the conversion to Islam, that's fine, but he embraced radical Islamist hatred, and that's the problem.
Absolutely. Tara Karta, can I bring you in as a terrorism and security expert? Look, there are going to be questions about why we're seeing this rise in attacks on American soil. Shootings is one thing because there's all this talk of gun reform. But with Donald Trump referring to this once again, as a scourge of illegals entering into America, do you really see that as the problem here?
No, I mean, I've kind of looked at counterterrorism for about nearly 2 decades. One, I don't believe in coincidences. If there is usually a pattern in this, in counterterrorism, you don't ever believe in coincidences. To both are Afghan war veterans. Both were apparently, possibly posted to Afghanistan more or less at the same time. On one level, you could say this justifies what Trump is saying, that end all wars. These are troubled people who came back. I mean, one is a guy who had running a charity. He was collecting toys and things for the children of Afghanistan. That is who he was. And from there to here, that's quite a journey. So in one way, you can say, yeah, this whole, the special forces people, they take the biggest brunt of psychological violence. So that is a possible factor. But in the end, what I want to really see is that the end result of these attacks is going to be that Tulsi Gabbard's view of ending the surveillance state, ending intrusiveness is done. She's not going to be able to do that. So I'm not saying this is some huge conspiracy or something. I'm just saying that reform, which she is so passionate about, because she defended, as you know, Julius Assange, all the rest of them. So that is not going to happen anymore. So there is there's otherwise this doesn't make sense at all. I mean, putting an ISI's flag, ISI's attacks are very different. I mean, if I were to look at a planned ISK attack, I would look at the Moscow attack. 137 people killed, massive. Single lone wolf attacks, yes. But in the other one, there is no ISK I'm talking about ISK in Afghanistan. It's really not that big a deal. And there are about
do you think it's a front to divert perhaps from the intention, from the motive?
Yeah, there's something iffy about this. I don't want to sort of commit myself here because, like we said, we don't know the facts yet.
Yeah.
But there are about 4 factions of ISIS-K in Afghanistan controlled by different entities. They could still be inspired by the propaganda because the last issue of Voice of Khorasan clearly talks about US, it talks about Russia, both as enemies of ISK. So it is there. Whether they got so fired up, but as I think the previous speaker said, both were very, very troubled individuals. So this whole Islamic State thing seems a little iffy.
Professor Latham, you said, in your opening comments that you don't believe there's any sort of conspiracy. You just had Tara list out a couple of similarities that make it very difficult to believe that this was really a coincidence at this point.
Well, politics is full of coincidences. And what I meant to say...
And coincidences, sure.
I don't think I was clear enough, is that there weren't people whispering and conspiring behind the scenes to conduct these 2 operations. But there was an underlying discontent which spontaneously manifested, weirdly, at the same time. That's not a conspiracy. These were, I don't know about the Tesla perpetrator, but Jabbar was clearly a very troubled individual who channeled his rage and anger in a very particular, narratively constructed way, which was Islamism, if I can put it just bluntly. That's different, though, than there was making the claim that there was some kind of conspiracy in which people behind closed doors and smoke-filled rooms, metaphorically, obviously we don't do that anymore, were conspiring to make this happen. That's not what's going on here. It's more troubling what's going on here, which is that there's some fundamental disaffections which are manifesting through troubled individuals as a political project involving killing many, many people. I don't think it's got anything to do with Trump. I'm not a fan of his, but I don't think it's got anything to do with him. I think this is a deeper malaise in Western culture, which is manifesting itself in all kinds of really ugly, horrible, and lethal ways.
Sushant, do you think so too, that, this is essentially the rot in society that's now getting exposed in the form of these kind of attacks, which unfortunately America isn't new to?
Yeah, of course, there are societal problems. I don't think anybody can deny that there are societal problems. And on top of that, you've had a kind of a level of political polarization which has never been witnessed in the past. So, yes, I think the professor from New York, he's correct. But we are talking about these two particular instances. So, obviously, it's unlikely, at least on the face of it, prima facie, that these were carried out by any right-wing group. One seems to be clearly an Islamist. The other, at least the symbolism behind the attack, seems to be some kind of a left-wing nut. That does not mean that there are no right-wing nuts in America who are carrying out terror attacks or who are forming militias and spouting hate. That's also happening in the US. But it's not just in the US that this kind of stuff is happening. You can see manifestations of these tendencies in other countries as well. Partly you could say it's a kind of a reaction. Partly you could say it's a kind of a societal breakdown of sorts. You could say it's the intersectionality of economic problems with social problems, with political polarization. Yeah, it's a complex phenomena and it hasn't been addressed adequately. Even on the issue of the Islamic radicalism and terrorism which is taking place, it hasn't been addressed adequately. It's more addressed more out of apologism rather than or in a mad kinetic way rather than in the way it needs to be addressed. So yes, you make tons of money by having CVE programs and with very little to show for it, especially in the affected countries and affected groups. But that is the way things are going. So clearly, you really need to rethink how to combat terrorism and terrorism of all hues. It's not just right-wing terrorism is fine and left-wing is not okay. All hues. In India, for example, we've had left-wing extremism for the longest, and we've tried to fight it ideologically, economically. We've tried to fight it politically. Something similar needs to be done with other forms of terrorism as well in other countries. So there's something that we can learn from them, and there's a lot maybe we can even teach them.
Professor Asal, do you think that President-elect Trump, when he comes in less than 20 days from now, is someone who will actually deal with all aspects of terror, not look at it from a prism of which side, but actually deal with all sides of it that you referred to?
I think President Trump has a perspective on who the bad guys are. And because of that, I think he's going to primarily focus on, and I wouldn't say just terrorism, I'd say extremism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, all forms.
And I would say focus on extremism, Islamist extremism, left-wing extremism. I don't think he's going to pay as much attention to right-wing extremism as he probably should. Okay, and this gets back to the January 6th event. But I also think it's very important that we all realize that there's still a lot of information that we don't actually know about these two events.
Sure.
And until we get more information, so I have read that these two individuals served together in the military.
Correct.
And so is it possible that they conspired to do this together? Yes. Do we know that? And so the issue of what the level of conspiracy is and was this connected to an organization, these are still two very open questions. And I'm leaning towards thinking this was just an individual act.
Yep.
On both parts, but we don't know that for sure yet. And I think it's important for us to realize that clearly.
The unfortunate reality is we've seen lone wolf strikes, we've seen mass shootings taking place in America. But like you pointed out, Professor Asal, there are similarities here. They use the same car rental app, the Turo app. They both were Afghan war veterans. They've both served in the army. So there are a lot of similarities. But obviously, we leave that to the agencies to really dive deep and get us those details. Final closing comments, Professor Latham, with less than 20 days to go now for Trump's inauguration, does this really change things? Does this mean more challenging times for Trump?
I don't think it changes anything fundamentally. I just want to echo the sentiments that were expressed a little bit earlier about we just don't know yet what exactly has happened. So we have to wait for the investigating agencies to sort that out. Mm-hmm. But my sense is that these two events will be, if I can minimize them, there'll be a blip on the road to his inauguration. And I do want to echo also the sentiment of one of my friends who just said this, which is that there's going to be more of an emphasis on Islamist and left-wing extremism than right-wing extremism in this incoming administration. That shouldn't be the case. It's troubling that it will be the case, and maybe it won't be the case. Extremism, in whatever flavor, whatever brand, is always a bad thing.
Absolutely. Just as there's no such thing as good or bad terrorism, there's no such thing as left or right. There's extremism, there's terrorism, and we need to define it like that. Hopefully our politicians will as well. Thank you very much for joining us here on this discussion. Yes, Professor Asal, you have one point to make.
I would say when you're doing research and you're trying to fight these things, you do need to pay attention to ideologies, but you need to fight all the terrorisms and focus on all of them. But ideology is an important component to pay attention to.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Asal. We'll leave it on that note. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Professor Latham, Sushant Sareen, as well as Tara Karta for joining us here tonight on News Today. All right, let's move on now to other stories also that have been making headlines through the day. We shift our focus to election-bound New Delhi. In the run-up to elections, is the Aam Aadmi Party banking on Hindutva? You're seeing it in their campaign, from accusing the Delhi Lieutenant Governor of okaying demolition of temples to announcing 18,000 rupees per month for temple priests and granthis. Arvind Kejriwal and AAP have been clearly wooing the Hindu vote and thereby trying to target BJP's vote bank. So they're doing that by accusing the BJP of being an adversary of Hindu sentiments. The question, of course, everyone's asking is whether Kejriwal's poll gambit will actually work.
With Delhi elections just weeks away, Aam Aadmi Party chief Arvind Kejriwal is seeking divine intervention. He's been on a temple run, seeking blessings from Bajrang Bali to Sri Balaji. In the run-up to the crucial assembly polls, the former Delhi Chief Minister and his party have made Hindutva one of their big calling cards. On Wednesday, Atishi accused the BJP of intending to dismantle at least 6 temples in the capital. She claims the demolition has been facilitated by the Delhi Lieutenant Governor.
जब मैंने एलजी साहब को चिट्ठी लिखी तो उनके ऑफिस ने कई मीडिया वालों को कहा कि ऐसा कोई भी निर्णय मंदिर तोड़ने का नहीं हुआ। ये सरासर झूठ है।
पिछले विधानसभा चुनावों से पहले शाहीन बाग उठाया, उत्तर पूर्वी का दंगा करवाया कि किसी तरह से चुनाव जीत जाएं। अब दिल्ली में धार्मिक उन्माद कैसे बिगाड़ा जाए तो मंदिरों का नाम ले रहे हैं। सारी उम्र तो आपने मंदिरों की चिंता की नहीं, भगवान राम का अनादर किया, अब इनको मंदिरों की याद आ रही है।
The latest salvo from Aam Aadmi Party came days after the party announced 18,000 rupees per month honorarium for temple priests and Gurudwara Granthis. Kejriwal targeted the BJP, portraying the Saffron Party as being antithetical to the interests of Hindus in Delhi. Kejriwal's rhetoric is centered on framing the BJP as an adversary of the Hindu sanctity, while projecting his party as a protector and promoter of religious values. The Aam Aadmi Party convener also shot off a letter to RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat on New Year's Day, asking if the RSS supports the BJP's wrongdoings. Kejriwal asked if the RSS supports BJP buying voters. Does the organization think that striking off names of Dalits from voter list is good for democracy? And if RSS feel that the BJP is weakening the democracy?
जो पार्टी सिर्फ और सिर्फ दिन रात झूठ बोलती है, वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी उस केजरीवाल पे सवाल उठा रही है जिन्होंने बिजली फ्री किया, पानी फ्री किया, शिक्षा फ्री किया, इलाज फ्री किया। कॉमेडी सर्कस के पात्र बन गए हैं भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लोग, इसलिए उनकी बातों को गंभीरता से नहीं लेना चाहिए।
आप कह रहे हैं कि वोट कटवा रहे हैं, अरे वोट काटने का काम जो है या वोट जोड़ने का काम इलेक्शन कमीशन का है। आपको कुछ अगर प्रॉब्लम है तो इलेक्शन कमीशन को चिट्ठी लिखिए। आप परम पूजनीय मोहन भागवत जी को चिट्ठी लिख रहे हैं, उससे क्या होने वाला है? सिर्फ और सिर्फ डाइवर्जन टैक्टिक्स और कुछ नहीं है। लेकिन दिल्ली की जनता तो आप जितने मर्जी रेवड़ी बांटते रहिए, दिल्ली की जनता आपको इन मुद्दों पे छोड़ने वाली नहीं है।
केजरीवाल देर सवेर अपनी जो असली है, जो आरएसएस के बेसिक एजेंट हम इसको कहते हैं, वो बाहर निकल आता है। एक तरफ तो कहते हैं कि इनकी जो मानसिकता है, इनकी विचारधारा जहरीली है, देश के एंटी है, फिर आप उनको सवाल लिखते हैं। तो होता क्या है कि जब आदमी जो अंदर से, हम लोग जो कहते हैं ना, जो एक बार संघी है वो जिंदगी भर संघी रहता है।
क्या लिख दिया अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने? एक अकाउंटेबिलिटी की बात की ना, कि कैसे आरएसएस जो एक मदर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है भाजपा की, क्या समर्थन करती है उस भाजपा का जो खुलेआम परवेश वर्मा पैसे बांट रहे हैं, काला धन घर में रखा हुआ है, पैसे बांट के कह रहे हैं कि मुझे वोट देना। क्या इस बात का समर्थन करना ठीक है? इस बात का जवाब मांगा। इस बात का जवाब मांगा कि एक बौखलाई हुई भाजपा कैसे जेन्युइन वोटर्स के नाम दिल्ली में कटवा रही है।
The BJP has called Aam Aadmi Party's Hindutva flex politically motivated, saying it is an attempt to divert from governance issues. Will Hindutva be a factor in the battle for Delhi? Bureau Report, India Today.
And the other big political talking point of the day, the Sanatana Dharma showdown, triggered, reignited this time by Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, who's said that Brahmanical monarchy is being established through Sanatana Dharma. As expected, the BJP is lashed out at the Kerala Chief Minister and also at the India bloc, demanding that Congress clear its stance on whether they endorse or oppose Pinarayi Vijayan's comment.
The Sanatan slander controversy has been reignited. Years after Udayanidhi Stalin, it is Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan who is in the eye of the Sanatan storm.
ഇന്നും ഇടക്കിടക്ക് ഇന്ത്യൻ രാഷ്ട്രീയത്തിൽ മുഴങ്ങിക്കേൾക്കുന്ന വാക്കാണ് സനാതന ഹിന്ദുത്വം. രാജാധിപത്യത്തിനും വർഗീയാധിപത്യത്തിനും ഒരുപോലെ പ്രിയപ്പെട്ടതാകുന്നു ഈ വാക്ക് എന്നത് ശ്രദ്ധിക്കണം.
It is over this comment that the Kerala Chief Minister is facing political fire, but he's sticking to his Sanatan criticism.
ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞത് എന്താണോ ആ പറഞ്ഞതിൽ നിൽക്കുന്നു. നിങ്ങൾ പറഞ്ഞതായിരിക്കില്ല ഞാൻ ചിലപ്പോൾ പറഞ്ഞത്. ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞ കാര്യങ്ങളിൽ ഉറച്ചു നിൽക്കുന്നു. അത് വോട്ട് ബാങ്ക് പൊളിറ്റിക്സ് ആണെങ്കിൽ വേറെയല്ലേ എടുക്കേണ്ടത്. ഇവിടെ കാണേണ്ടത് ശ്രീനാരായണ ഗുരു സനാതന ധർമ്മത്തിന്റെ ഭാഗമായി അവതരിപ്പിക്കേണ്ട കാര്യമില്ല എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞത്.
The comment has triggered a political war of words nationally and once again has spelled trouble for the India bloc. The BJP has demanded answers from the Congress on whether they agree with their allies' Sanatan stand.
I would like to know, what is the Congress party's stand? Why the Congress national leadership is silent on this? Because Congress, being part of the India alliance, they have been supporting the communist parties as well as DMK.
The Congress seems confused on their stand. While Kerala Congress leaders have condemned the comment, there has been no comment from the central leadership.
I have differences of opinion with the Honorable Chief Minister of Kerala. He said the Varnasrama and Chaturvarnya are part of Sanatana Dharma. Not. Sanatana Dharma is the cultural legacy of our nation. Now the Chief Minister is trying to provide the legacy of Sanatana Dharma to Sangha Parivar. We are not ready to give it to Sangha Parivar.
Amid political fire from the BJP, the left has backed Chief Minister Vijayan's remarks on Sanatan Dharma.
we are opposed to Sanatan. We think Sanatan is an ideology which perpetuates inequalities, which perpetuates caste system, which perpetuates patriarchy. So we are opposed.
The debate over Sanatana Dharma and the war of words have been rekindled with Chief Minister Vijayan's remark. Will the left's India bloc allies pay the political price for these comments? Bureau Report, India Today.
So what really can we expect? Who will be in the playing 11? Joining us now on the news today is Managing Editor Vikrant Gupta. We also have our editor Rahul Rawat with us. Good evening to both of you. Vikrant, I'd like to begin with you. Look, the message seems to be clear that Rohit Sharma is going to be rested because of his poor performance. Then there also will be questions, Vikrant, about Virat Kohli, about Rishabh Pant. Are we going to see sweeping changes in the playing 11 tomorrow?
Not really. Number one, Rohit won't be rested. It's something like being benched or having opted out. I mean, it's a mixture of the two. I think there was pressure on Rohit Sharma. He must have wanted to play because this Sydney Test match ideally would have been his last Test match for India. I mean, he would have retired, or maybe this would have been the last time that we'd seen him playing Test cricket for India. Now, the last 2 days, I think the noise got shredder. The news came out that everything wasn't well within the dressing room, and there was pressure on Rohit. And you could make out while the team was practicing today, he was not doing the usual drills that you do before a Test match. And again, he could have gone to the coach, he could have gone to Ajit Agarkar, who's the chairman selection committee, and he could have asked them, "Kya lagta hai, main khelu?" And if they had said, "Yes, you have to play, yaar, you must play," he would have played. And I'm sure he didn't get the desired nod from them. They would have said, "Dekh lo, soch lo, it's up to you." And the moment you say that to somebody who knows that the writing is on the wall, he said, "I'm opting out." So being rested means that you can come back. I think Rohit Sharma has played his last Test match in Melbourne. You would see him maybe leading the side in the Champions Trophy, but not in Test cricket anymore. And again now, does the barometer change? Indian cricket, the barometer has never been the same for everybody. Rohit was an excellent captain. He got you results. He got to the World Cup just 6 months ago. It's just that the last 6 months of 2024 have been very, very bad for Rohit Sharma as a captain. India lost to New Zealand at home, and he's not been scoring runs. Not scoring runs and not looking like scoring runs. I think that would have been the clincher. Age caught up with him, perhaps. I think he had no other option than to retire. Virat, I don't think is going to be dropped for the Sydney Test match. In fact, we're hearing stories that he is really interested in becoming an interim captain if India needs him to.
Okay.
He's not scored runs, but he also wants to be the interim captain if India needs him to.
Interesting. We'll know if that happens tomorrow. Look, Rahul, let's also talk about what your team has been reporting on, about what happened in the dressing room and all of the noise about Gautam Gambhir really, putting the onus on the star players who haven't been really bringing their A game to these Test matches. Do you think, and I think it's very clear that as much as the players here, there is also pressure building on Gautam Gambhir to deliver?
Well, certainly, Akshita, and Gautam Gambhir and Rohit Sharma, the captain Rohit Sharma, were definitely not on the same page. It could be because of the selection issues. It could be the strategies that were being discussed in the dressing room. And also, after a point, because the results for everybody, results are how you judge a person, a cricketer, or anybody. So for Rohit Sharma, just 31 runs in the last 3 Test matches, and before that, the New Zealand series, and before that, the Bangladesh series. If those results did not go in his favor, questions obviously were just round the corner for Gautam Gambhir as well. And somebody had to bell the cat, and perhaps Gautam Gambhir, in discussion with Ajit Agarkar, the chairman of the selection committee, and also with the blessings of BCCI, because midway through a tour in the series, just 1 test to go, if you're removing your captain, the decision must have been taken amongst these individuals, but also with the blessings of the BCCI. So that is what has happened, and these are all accountable positions. They are all salary jobs. They are getting 9 to 10 crores per annum. The head coach of your Indian team gets that much amount. For Ajit Agarkar, the chairman of the selection committee, was also the salary was high quite a lot. Twice or thrice the amount.
And look, they have to deliver. That's what it comes down to, performance for everyone, the players, for the coach, for the management, for every single person. They have to deliver. And the do-or-die match that's coming up tomorrow in Sydney, that's the one to deliver in. We'll be watching out for those results very, very closely. And, of course, keeping our fingers crossed. We will be updating all of you, our viewers, on the playing 11 as and when that comes in. Vikrant, Rahul, thank you very much for joining us here on India Today. All right, the other big story that came in, chess sensation Gukesh and shooter Manu Bhaker have been very rightfully bestowed the prestigious Khel Ratna 2024 award for their magnificent sporting exploits and for doing the country so very proud. Gukesh was crowned the world chess champion at the age of 18. Manu Bhaker, remember, secured 2 Olympic medals in the 2024 Paris Games. Manu Bhaker, who won the 2 Olympic bronze medals, and world chess champion Gukesh are among the 4 athletes who will be honoured with the Major Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna Award. So you'll also have Indian men's hockey team captain Harmanpreet Singh and Paralympian Praveen Kumar, who will also receive the Khel Ratna.
I'm extremely humbled and honoured to know that the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports have announced the prestigious Major Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna Award for me and for recognizing my achievements. I would like to thank the Government of India, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji and Honorable Sports Minister for their recognition. This award will motivate me to work even harder and achieve more laurels for the country in 2025. And this means a lot to me and my family and my team. So thank you so much.
So that was a message from Gukesh right after the announcement was made that he's being conferred with the Khel Ratna. Let's take you back to last year when we spoke exclusively to Manu Bhaker on her massive achievement at the Olympics.
I interviewed you in Paris. At that time, maybe the medal was yet to sink in, but now it's been over a month. How has life changed for Manu Bhaker?
Truly, I think it's going to be the same for me. As soon as I go to my shooting arena back, I think it's going to be the same. At times, I would say it's going to be more difficult, as my coach says always. Now that people know you, they'll always, want more from you. They'll want more medals, more better performance at every stage. So, I mean, of course, it's going to be difficult, but what's good in doing easy things? Let's get on to difficult stuff.
Okay, but do you feel the difference of how people reacted to you earlier to now?
For me, I would say the life remains the same, although now I'm getting this opportunity of meeting different people almost every single day. So it's exciting to know their story and to get to know them and to share my story as well. So that is the interesting part. Other than that, I think it's going to be the same for me.
Not really.
Not really. And that's exactly what I wanted. I want your perspective. Has Manu Bhaker's life changed, and how do you see it from the outside?
See, thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me here. Life has changed, and I think Manu forgot that we were running pillar to post before Olympic. Nobody bothers like where we travel, wherever we go. Nobody, even people those who are supposed to help us, most of them did not. But at the same time, positive side, there were a lot of people, those we thought that will not be helpful, they come for help. And I'd like to thank all of them. And if I start taking name, it will be entire evening. But a lot of people did do. But yes, life has changed. And this period, 3 months time, people talk about like why she is doing all the running around and showing off medal and all those things. First of all, that's her right, and that's That's a good thing. People want to see the Manu with a medal. Nobody called us before Olympic. Nobody invited us anywhere. So let her fly with the medal wherever she goes. There's nothing wrong in it. We should be proud of her.
You know, just to put it into context for those of you who don't know, Manu, as much love as she's getting on social media, there are a few trolls that have pointed out, I don't know if you've read all the comments, but people writing, because she's gone for a lot of events wearing her medals, people have said that, you know, things like, Manu Bhaker doesn't need a passport, her medal, the passport. Manu Bhaker doesn't need a boarding pass, her medals are boarding pass. And it went on and on from that. Just adding on from...
Let me check if I'm wearing them tonight. Not today. Maybe some other time.
But how did you deal with this criticism? That why is she flaunting her medals everywhere she goes?
Honestly, it took me 8.5 years to win those medals for India. And those medals, I believe, belong to the country. And they're just with me for some time, for my life, my entire life. But they belong to the country, and whenever I go anywhere, like people ask me that they want to see the medal, or please, can we see your medal as well? When you come, please get them along. So, I mean, when they see the medals, few candid pictures are always clicked, and then they're always posted on internet. So what can I do?
And if you read legend stories, they used to sleep with their medals. Yeah. So what's the problem, Manu, going everywhere with the medal? There's nothing wrong in it. And people wants to see it, right?
Do you ever think about how close you were to winning 3 medals? Or you made a record winning 2.
But do you know how close she was from the 4th place?
In the 2 medals she won.
Yes.
That's so brilliantly
put. This is how you see it. We won 2 medals. That's a history. She's the first lady to win, or athlete to win 2 medals in one Olympic. So I think it's a very positive side, and she's too young, and there's a lot of Olympics on the way. LA, then 36, which the Prime Minister is trying to host, the 36th Olympic in India.
All right, fitting recognition of the talent that Manu Bhaker is, and of course D. Kukesh as well. That's all we have time for in this edition of News Today. Thanks very much for tuning in. I'm leaving you with our image of the day. The heartthrob of millions, singer Diljit Dosanjh, meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Take a look at this interaction. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.
के गांव का एक लड़का जो दुनिया में नाम रोशन करता है, वैसा लगता है। आपके परिवार ने उसका नाम दिलजीत रखा, तो आप जीतते ही जाते हो लोगों को।
हम पढ़ते थे कि मेरा भारत महान। जब मैं भारत घूमा ना जी पूरा, तो मेरे को पता चला ये क्यों कहते हैं मेरा भारत महान।
सचमुच में भारत की विशालता एक अपनी शक्ति है। हम लोग एक वाइब्रेंट सोसाइटी है।
भारत में सबसे बड़ा कोई जादू जिसको कह लो तो वो योग है।
जिसने योगा को अनुभव किया वो उसकी ताकत जानता है।
मैंने आपका इंटरव्यू देखा था सर अभी हाल ही में। हमारे लिए आप प्रधानमंत्री एक बहुत बड़ा पद है, तो हम शायद एक जो उसके पीछे एक माँ और बेटा और इंसान है, वो कई बार वो भूल जाता है, क्योंकि एक औहदा बहुत बड़ा है। जब आप अपने माँ को लेके और गंगा मैया को लेके, वो दिल भरा, वो टच होता था। एक्चुअली ये दिल से बात निकली है, तभी दिल तक गई। वो कहंदे किथे है तेरा रब दिसदा ही नहीं, मैं कहा अखां बंद कर ध्यान तर महसूस कर, गुरु नानक ता अंग संग है, तू ही बस गैर हाजिर है, गुरु नानक गुरु नानक गुरु नानक।